I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. Today, we are in the peak tank, and we're going to talk about breast hooks. So, first off, the peak tank is a void space at the very bow of the ship. It always seems to be true void, i.e. filled with air and not liquids. So that probably has to do with buoyancy, especially at the bow as the ship gets narrower. The breast hooks aren't full decks, so I'm hard pressed to tell you where I am. There are typically 7 decks in the ship up here at the bow, from main deck all the way down. However, there are 9 breast hooks. So some of these come at deck levels, and some of them come at half deck levels. So like here, there is not enough room for me to stand up. The peak tanks are not full deck height. And this is all just structural stuff for this iconic bow of the ship. Now, just using some context clues, we can tell we're just above the water line, because you can see the curve of the ship is still coming in, and then right around the water line it comes in at its narrowest and then curves back out towards that bulbous bow we covered in another recent video. Check out the link in the description. So the shell plating, this stuff here, the outside plating of the hull, is real thin at the bow. The thinnest of anywhere else on the ship. And you've got a lot of curves and other things going on. And this is the part of the ship that is beating through the waves. So it needs a lot of reinforcement. And those reinforcing members, those horizontal reinforcing members, are the breast hooks. Now this term comes primarily from old wooden sailing ships. It's like on Constellation down in Baltimore where I used to work, down in sick bay, right below the waterline, there is a breast hook that is like a curved piece of wood, like any of the other frames, that is built right there into the bow, right up against the stem post. It looks like a wishbone, or part of the breastbone that's holding your chest together. And so breast hook gets adopted. Sailors are not very creative when it comes to naming things. And even though on more modern ships, this no longer takes the same shape as a wishbone, they continue to use the same terminology. And so you can notice that even though these are floors, decks, they have a lot of holes cut into them. And really the only purpose of these holes is to save weight up here. You want all the structural strength you can get, but you got to save weight. Remember, Iowa-class battleships are built to the escalator clause of the London Navy Treaty, which is trying to keep them at 45,000 tons standard displacement. So they have to save weight, especially up here in the narrow, non-buoyant bow of the ship. So the entire peak tank, which comprises something like 5 or 6 decks of the ship, is its own one single space. It doesn't have a series of watertight compartments like elsewhere on the ship. And if it floods, because it's so small in here, it's not going to severely affect the watertight integrity of the ship or the buoyancy of the rest of the ship. There just isn't that much area. So another structural feature up here is the ship seems to be more heavily framed than elsewhere. Remember, frame spacing on a battleship is every 4 feet. But up here we've got destroyer frame spacing, i.e. every 2 feet. So each of these bays is about 4 feet wide. So we've got a frame number and then a half frame and then a frame number going forward. as you get, and I believe this is frame number 1 here. So as you get forward of frame number 1, you see that the spaces get pretty narrow as we get towards the bow. And we have just some small circular holes going all the way forward. And then that flat wall at the front is, I believe, the front of the ship. One big takeaway from this space is it's pretty immaculately painted still. If I had to guess, I would say that this area was painted back when the ship was being mothballed or very late in her career. And it's held up remarkably well, despite all the temperature fluctuations that take place here and everything else. When I do these surveys of the ship to see how the shell plating is holding up and how much corrosion we've got, I'm always very surprised by how good it is, especially compared to other vessels I've worked on. You'll remember that North Carolina, in this same part of the ship, had leaking issues. In fact, all of the other Museum battleships, to my knowledge, have had leaking issues, particularly up here at the bow in the peak tank, where the shell plating is the thinnest. And they're all working on different innovative ways to fix that. So North Carolina built that cofferdam around them. Texas filled a lot of their void spaces with foam, so there just isn't any room for water to get in. Iowa is planning on using a cofferdam system that they can move around the bow of the ship and treat areas section at a time. We are very fortunate in that we have yet to see significant corrosion in this area, partially because we're sitting in fresh water, and partially since it seems like the Navy took good care of us before they mothballed us up. So, some poor sucker had to paint down here in my lifetime. What is the weirdest place you've ever had to paint? Let us know in the comments section down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. The support you guys have given us has been really tremendous, and if you'd like to continue supporting the museum or the channel, there's a link in the description below. Another way you can support us is by liking, sharing, and subscribing so that more people find out about our YouTube channel and our museum. Thanks for watching.